people more confidence. That's a quote from the President. The overall review will be complete by the end of the year. The review is being led by the White House and includes agencies from across the government. Beyond what the President has said, the administration's review is ongoing, so I'm not in a position to discuss reports about what may or may not be recommended by either the Review Group on Intelligence and Communications Technology or the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board. We have not yet received the Review Group's final report and are not going to comment on a report that has not been submitted. We expect, however, that that Review Group's report will be delivered by the December 15th due date. Let me move up, as I've been promising. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Following this week's designations of Iranian entities by the Treasury Department, the Iranian delegation at implementation talks in Geneva protested and suspended those talks, claiming that those designations are tantamount to new sanctions and violate the spirit of the deal reached in Geneva only weeks ago. How do you plan to convince the Iranians that designations and sanctions are two different things, and what is the strategy for getting back to the implementation talks so that we can start the clock ticking on this deal?
Well, the agreement very clearly referred to nuclear sanctions and also very clearly referred to the fact that existing sanctions would continue. Technical talks between the P5+1 and Iran were held from December 9th through December 12th in Vienna to discuss the implementation details of the joint plan of action. And we made progress in those discussions, and we considered the atmosphere during those discussions constructive. Now, these are complicated technical issues, and after 4 days of detailed talks, all teams have returned to their capitals for further consultations, and that was always the plan. We continue to do the necessary work to prepare to implement the joint plan of action and are prepared to meet again with our P5+1 partners and Iran as soon as possible to resume these technical talks. Now, in terms of what the Iranians have said about their delegation, I will simply point you to the delegation and to Iran for them to speak for their actions. But let's be clear, the designations announced yesterday were related to the enforcement of existing sanctions, and we have made clear all along that we would continue to enforce existing sanctions. As the President said, to the extent permissible within our political system, we have committed to refrain from imposing new nuclear-related sanctions. That does not prevent us from implementing and enforcing our existing nuclear-related sanctions, which of course we will do, as we said, or from imposing new sanctions targeting Iran's sponsorship of terrorism or its abysmal human rights record. We have been clear with Iran throughout this process that we will continue to enforce existing sanctions, which is consistent with what was done yesterday, the action taken yesterday. But let's be clear also that we continue to oppose the passage of new nuclear-related sanctions for the reasons that we've discussed now for several weeks, because we believe that the purpose of this most effective and comprehensive sanction regime that has been built up by this administration with our partners was to see if we could compel Tehran to change its behavior, to come to the negotiating table and to commit itself to actions aimed at proving to the international community that Iran was prepared to abide by its international obligations and to forsake a nuclear weapons program. So we have a preliminary agreement, the joint plan of action, and these technical discussions continue.
The follow-up is, as the Daily Beast reported, in the 6 months since Rouhani was elected, the pace of designations slowed dramatically. There were almost no designations in that 6-month period. Administration officials claim that was meant to provide an atmosphere conducive to talks of progress. So why all of these designations now? Doesn't that do the opposite, create an atmosphere that's not conducive to further talks of progress?
We've been clear all along that we would continue to implement the existing sanctions. And throughout President Obama's time in office, we have both unilaterally and working with our partners ramped up sanctions. So I don't know that I would characterize actions taken in the last weeks or months in any other way except to say that we've been continuing the implementation of existing sanctions as we have pursued the possibility and now the reality of reaching a preliminary agreement with Iran with a unified P5+1. And now that we have, it is our view and has been our view, that Congress should refrain from passing new sanctions, precisely because Congress has been an excellent partner in this effort and has within its power the ability to time the passage of sanctions, if necessary, to affect Iranian behavior. We believe that if Iran demonstrates that it will comply with the agreement it made, that would obviously be a good thing, and then progress could be made on the potential for a more comprehensive solution to this challenge over 6 months. But if Iran were to fail to comply or fail to come to agreement with the P5+1 on a comprehensive solution, comprehensive agreement, then it would be entirely appropriate for the Congress to take action. And I think that once again, if that were to happen, that we would be in a situation as we helped create in 2009, where the international community would be united in opposition to Iran's refusal to live up to its international obligations. Now, that's a lot of speculation, which I try not to engage in, but I think I'm simply saying that that would be a situation that would mirror what we have seen in the past, which is
new designations to be continued?
I think you can expect us to continue to implement existing sanctions, and where that requires new designations, that I'm sure will be what we do. You bet. John.
On the NSA task force, recommendations will come in on time. Will you make their report public?
What I can tell you is that we will have a lot more to say to make the outcomes public in an appropriate way after we receive it. Obviously, we're talking about fairly sensitive and classified information, but part of this process that the President has asked for is one that will allow us to be as transparent as possible and to, as he said, propose some self-restraint on the NSA and initiate some reforms that can give people more confidence. And giving people more confidence obviously involves giving people more information. Beyond that, exactly how and when making those outcomes public is still being determined. But I expect we'll have more information on those questions soon, because, as I noted earlier, the review group's report is expected here on December 15th.
Because the review group's report, as I understand it, has been declassified, gone through a declassification process. Is that not correct?
I'll have to take the question. I don't know the answer to that. What I can
You're not going to release their full report.
I'll have to. I'm not sure about that, John. What I can tell you is that we will endeavor to release as much information as we can. Mindful of the fact that these are sensitive matters involving intelligence gathering.
In terms of this group, the internal reviews you've been doing, and the self-restraint that the President will be, the changes he'll be making, would any of this be happening if it weren't for Edward Snowden?
Well, that's an excellent question that's impossible to answer. The President, as you know, believes that what has happened this year has made it clear that we need to review our activities with a basic principle in mind, that we should be doing everything we should and must be doing to ensure our safety within the law, but not doing things simply because we can do them, because we have the assets and resources that allow us to do them. So I can't imagine what that world would look like, but this is very consistent with the President's views for a long time now, and he has initiated this effort and looks forward to both the review group's report and to actions being taken in response to it.
But would you acknowledge that this entire effort, this multi-agency effort, independent task force?
I think if you look back to the speech the President gave prior to the revelations, the disclosures that we're talking about, I think he indicated very clearly that he wanted to engage in a broader review of our posture, if you will, and how we do things. I'm speaking at a high altitude here, but this involves his view that now 12 years after 9/11 and after the wars that we've engaged in, that we were required a new look at the way we conduct this kind of business.
And on Levinson, 17 days ago, you issued a statement saying Robert Levinson went missing during a business trip to Kish Island, Iran. When you talked about it just now, you simply said when he went to Kish Island, Iran. I'm wondering, is that statement from 17 days ago that he went missing during a business trip on Kish Island, Iran, is that still operative, or is that no longer?
I mean, I'm simply saying that he was not a U.S. government employee. This is in reaction to a story that is published today. I'm not adjusting what was said in the past. I'm making clear in response to this story that is what we can say. We cannot say more for some of the reasons that I just described in answering Julie's question.